Hello and welcome to Euranet Plus Debate You Talking to Me. This week we're going to talk about one of the latest tax scandals, the so-called Panama Papers scandal, a leak of 11 million documents from Panama law firm Mossack Fonseca on tax arrangements through offshore companies made by politicians, businessmen and celebrities in order to hide their money from the public eye. In order to discuss about this topic, I'm here with two members of the European Parliament, both members of the Tax Committee. I have here first Frank Engel, is a Luxembourgish member of the European People's Party. Welcome.
Hello.
And also Fabio Di Masi is a German member of the United Left Party. Thank you and welcome. Thanks for being here. So one of the latest proposals we have heard here in the Parliament is the proposal by Commissioner Moscovici in order to create a sort of black list of tax havens. But this is not the first time we hear about this proposal, actually. It was already created in June last year. So what would be different this time? I mean, why this time should work?
It is not even the first time that the proposal was raised here. There were blacklists in the past, and the blacklists existed, and at some point they were abandoned because everybody had made it off the blacklist. Strangely, bigger jurisdictions were very nicely protecting the smaller parts of them which were on them, and there were loads of trades-off. I don't think blacklists are going to help. The point that is now helping is again not any blacklist or any formal arrangement saying if you have a company there, that's fishy, but if you have one there, that's all right. What happens is that occasionally these things are brought to the public attention because we are finding out, like it or not, and I say that above all to people like myself, that the people don't like the fact that others seem to be hiding their money away in manners that are different from what the common mortal is capable of doing or is willing to do. And that's definitely helping much more than any blacklists.
What do you think about this proposal? Should this proposal work this time? Is it useful?
Well, Frank and I do tend to disagree on some tax issues, but here I completely agree. The blacklist will not help much. We had one in 2009 from the OECD. It was very soon empty because then Panama will complain, why is the United States not on there with Delaware? Or why is Germany not captured, my own country, which features higher than Panama on the Shadow Finance Index by the Tax Justice Network. So I think my position is that the country-by-country reporting of taxes paid, of turnover, of people employed by multinational corporations should be transparent for every country, regardless of whether they are on a list. That will not happen anyway, as Frank has already indicated.
Only 8 countries in the European Union consider Panama as a tax haven. Should be considered now as that from now on after this scandal?
Well, I think Panama, which has been removed from the grey list of the OECD due to striking some bilateral trade agreements, double taxation agreements, for example, with the Netherlands, has been removed from the grey list, and I think that was a wrong decision. I think they are a tax haven, but I don't think they are the only tax haven, and that is the problem here. So it would be unfair only to put Panama on there, and if we would really take matters serious, we would have to put a lot of even EU countries on there. So I don't think that this blacklist will work in any way.
By the way, if I may add, if I understand this Mossack Fonseca business correctly, most of the attention is now on companies that are not Panamanian, but that were founded by Mossack Fonseca, created by Mossack Fonseca, operating from Panama, but the companies themselves were in the British Virgin Islands or in other more exotic island territories in the Caribbean or in the Pacific. It's not so much about Panama, but it's about a remaining network of jurisdictions worldwide. From Hong Kong through all the oceans back to Panama and indeed to the European Union, where it is, how should I put this? Where it is possible to withdraw part of your wealth from the public eye.
Okay, I would like to include in this debate some questions of our Euranet Plus media partners. So let's just start with the first question. It's a question coming from Luxembourg, from Radio.7. Let's hear please the question.
Hello from Luxembourg. As the name of the papers indicates, the main focus this time is obviously on Panama. However, again, Luxembourg-based banks appear as intermediaries in the documents. Now, I'm wondering, do you think the Luxembourgish government has done enough since LuxLeaks to prevent precisely this type of construction that we can now find in the Panama papers?
Okay, and still related to this question, I have another question from our social media followers. Is the following. It's from Sven. What is the worst scandal, the LuxLeaks or the Panama leaks, in the sense of which one has the bigger impact on the EU? As you are from Luxembourg, I will start with you. So, which is the worst scandal among these two, and has the Luxembourgish government done enough?
Look, I'm not engaging now in a sort of competition in order to find out if last year or this year or next year we're going to find the biggest scandal and with the biggest impact and everything attached to it. What is the problem? The problem is that we have found out by unlawful means. By the way, I insist on that as well, which remains a problem to me. But nevertheless, this is out in the open now, so let's talk about it. We are finding out that, to put it very bluntly, the richest people and the biggest companies pay the least taxes. And this is perceived, rightly so, by the working people and quite possibly the unemployed people who are not even allowed to work, as not being the right state of affairs. Whether that happens in Panama or whether it has the name of my country tagged to it is relatively irrelevant, as long as arrangements continue to exist which seem to allow, or which do allow, a minimization of tax load, whereas a fair share of tax would be expected from those who don't pay, we have a problem. Now, have we done enough? It's first of all, my party for the moment doesn't govern, so I could be inclined to say no, they've done nothing.
No, but I think what it means is that many of the things we are listening in now, were already said like 1.5 years ago when LuxLeaks took place. So have we moved forward since then?
No, and the point is that the way in which some people seem to believe that we can move forward is not possible. Because if Luxembourgish banks were intermediaries, what does that mean in this context? This means that there is a company from the British Virgin Islands, quite potentially, which opens a bank account in Luxembourg and which manages to prove to the Luxembourgish authorities that this money is not laundered. That's all it has to prove. Then it can open its account. Now, if the money was somehow subtracted from the tax authorities somewhere, is something that neither my banks, nor your banks, nor Fabio's banks, nor any other banks are sufficiently interested in. And that is the problem that we will eventually have to confront. But right now, banking legislation is what it is. And provided that you are dealing with funds that are technically clean, meaning they do not come from arms trade, people smuggling or anything like that, they can be administered, and then you end up in situations like this.
And at EU level, what have we done at EU level since LuxLeaks, and is it enough? Because I guess many people, it's unavoidable to think about the LuxLeaks, even if there are different tax scandals.
Obviously, we have not done enough. Luxembourg leaks was about corporate taxation, and Mr. Juncker's right, it's not only Luxembourg leaks, it's EU leaks, because we had a lot of sweetheart tax deals for multinational corporations, even in other EU member states. Panama leaks is about also companies, but also very wealthy private individuals who are hiding the money from public eye, and in both instances it's about stealing money from the public coffer and letting the majority of the working people footing the bill. However, in Panama we're also talking about money laundering, we're talking about terrorist finance, for example, we're talking about pimps, drug lords and all kind of criminal activity. Have we done enough? No, but not only Luxembourg has failed there, even my own government, the German government, because for example, if you're a tax foreigner, a dictator from somewhere, you can easily bring money to Germany without much burden of proof for the banks. And if a German bank helps somebody, works with money that has been laundered or evaded in some other jurisdiction, they are not punished very much. And so we really need tough laws in that regard. And I would also argue that if a bank such as Deutsche Bank repeatedly helps to evade taxes and do criminal activities, they have to be a withdrawal of their banking license, because if I go into my car and I drive drunk and I do that 3 times and I injure people, my driver's license will be withdrawn.
But who is blocking here? Why are we not going faster and farther? Is the fault of the member states? Is it that we don't have a political will to fight against this at EU level?
Well, the German government, for example, blocked a publication of the beneficial owners behind these letterbox companies, while, for example, the UK was willing to do so. The UK again said we want an exemption for offshore trusts, exactly the kind of trust that Mr. Cameron then put his money in. So there are a lot of culprits here, and I don't even know where to start first.
And it is, of course, also, as always, a matter of international competition. Because if we root something out within the European Union, whereas the United States are allowed to happily continue doing what they do in Delaware for the general offshore business, in Nevada for the gambling industry, and in some other member states of the United ones as well, then of course we're putting ourselves, or at least this is the way it's felt, at a competitive disadvantage.
But does it mean
throw China into the game as well?
Then? Because the others are not doing it enough?
It means that at the end of the day, if we only pretend, because it would be pretense, we would not manage. But if we only pretended to root the evil out within the European Union alone, we will be shooting ourselves in the foot. This has to happen on a global level, because otherwise it will not happen.
Okay.
Here, let me come in here, because here I have a slight disagreement with Frank. I think the United States, while perfectly being aware that they do their own dirty business in Delaware and other way.
Good question would be, by the way, why there is so little Delaware in the Panama Papers. I always wonder where the interests are when such things come out, but this may not be the subject of our debate.
Yeah, exactly. Let's keep it at EU level for the moment.
Well, there was obviously maybe a conflict of interest, because some US foundations have been involved in the leaks. I heard that some documents from Mossack Fonseca in Nevada had been removed, but we have to clarify this, and the best way we can clarify this is by publishing registers of the true beneficial owners behind these letterbox companies. Then we know the names, even the US names. But where I want to come in is on the issue of multilateral solutions. I agree that multilateral solutions are highly preferable. But still, even with the information exchange, Singapore is not part of it, so you can easily move a Swiss bank account to Singapore. And it's very, very hard. And then they play very often bad cop, good cop. So Mr. Schäuble, the German finance minister, will say, well, we wanted to do something, but some other country, maybe Luxembourg, blocked it. I think this is not the way forward. The United States has proved that you can have a tough approach on Liechtenstein, for example, on Switzerland, when they said, well, if you don't cooperate, we will tax at the source. So when a financial flow goes to a tax haven, we will tax it immediately. And after that, cooperation happened immediately, because the United States is a very important economy, and we are strong enough in the European Union, even economies such as Germany, to impose these kind of sanctions.
Very quickly, because we have to move forward, do we need an investigation committee at the European Parliament?
I don't see what that is good for. This is one of the points of contention that I have with Fabio and a few other colleagues. I respect their engagement and their endeavor. But I don't see either that it is for us to do this, nor do I see that we're going to do much good in it. Because we are not going to investigate better than those that are now already investigating anyway. And all we can do is to continue to lay on political pressure so that politically things move forward. That we can do through the regular channels. For that we don't need inquiry committees. But if there is an inquiry committee, my sleep is not going to be substantially troubled.
Do you want to answer very quickly on this?
Yes, well, I hope I will see Frank in the inquiry committee. So we can both on it. I'm certainly in favor of an inquiry committee, and I think it's a big hypocrisy that we didn't have an inquiry committee on LuxLeaks and the other cases. The majority in the parliament blocked. Now they say, well, this was at our front door. Now about Panama, we can have an inquiry committee, but I welcome this new dynamic in the European Parliament. I think it's not so much only about investigating Panama leaks, but to look at where have we not done our homework. For example, when we talk about the anti-money laundering directive, there we are even legalizing shadow directors of these letterbox companies. And so we have to address these issues if we want to look in the eyes of the majority of the people of the electorate who are working hard the whole day and paying their fair share of taxes.
And by the way, if I may add a 20-second thing, I've been trying within my own group, also with the pseudo-coalition group that we have, to promote the idea of an initiative report that the Parliament should do on European financial centres. Now, for quite a long time, because I would want to find out what a European decent financial centre is, of which we need some, because for redistribution of money into the real economy, this is indispensable. So far, nobody wanted to do that. Maybe we'll get another chance at doing that as well.
Also, now in Strasbourg, in this plenary session, is being discussed and voted the so-called Trade Secrets Directive. Some concerned voices have argued that this could put at risk the protection of journalists and whistleblowers. Would it be more difficult to have leaks as the Panama Papers leak with this new directive?
Panama Papers is a criminal endeavor. Panama Paper results from hacking, and hacking is illegal in every jurisdiction that I know. And I will never, not for the life of me, accept to have to protect people who break the law.
Even if it's for the public interest?
It is not for the public interest. Hacking into somebody's computer systems, intruding into the still legally preserved privacy of individuals, is not in the public interest. If anything could be in the public interest, then it's providing a different sort of definition of what the legally perceived privacy of individuals can be. As long as things are what they are, I want those people who break the law punished.
First of all, let me say I probably know the source of Panama Leaks, and I can say in my judgment it was not a hack. This is the version that Mossack Fonseca provides. But I certainly see the Trade Secrets Directive very critical. I received a private message from Antoine Deltour today, who will be charged in Luxembourg on the 26th of April. And I think the problem with the Trade Secrets Directive is, well, there are business secrets that are protectable, but the Trade Secrets Directive defines a trade secret as such when a company takes measures to protect something, and criminal activity is not to be protected. I think that the activities exposed in Panama were indeed criminal, and if I come with, I don't know, a CD about child prostitution to the police and I have stolen it, the police will not ask, where have you stolen the CD? They will pursue the child prostitution network. Hence, I think we need for the public interest a protection of whistleblowers, and they cannot at the first instance already judge whether the information they obtained is legal or not. So if they act in a spirit of wanting to protect the public good, I think they should have legal protection. This is what Mr. Juncker said in the Taxi Committee when I confronted him with the case of Antoine Deltour. He said we need a European whistleblower protection, and the Trade Secrets Directive is the opposite of that.
Okay, I would like to include the last question of one of our Euranet Plus partners, the Spanish partner. Let's listen please the question.
I'm from Spain. Well, in the long list of names, you can find members of a Spanish monarchy, actors, politicians, but also it appears the wife of the current Commissioner Miguel Arias Cañete. So, if such of societies are legal but not ethical, how far is the responsibility of Cañete for what his wife does when also they have separate property?
So, how far is the responsibility of Commissioner Cañete?
Look, I don't know what specific arrangements Mr. and Mrs. Cañete have for the responsibility of the one over the affairs of the other. So I would not want to trust in upon something. I find it problematic, just like I find the story with Mr. Cameron's father, who is no longer among us, but still problematic. All these family arrangements are, of course, there because somebody of the family at some point has to withdraw from money-making schemes because they enter public office. And the assets are somehow left and administered by a spouse or a son or a daughter, I don't know who. This isn't very healthy either, but I couldn't possibly judge the Cañete story right now.
Especially when politicians are asking for so much austerity for so many years. So I don't know if you want to add something on this question?
Well, I can only add I'm not married, but and I cannot judge how far a husband is responsible for what his wife is doing, but I would think that it would very much...
Almost philosophical question anyway.
It would very much help us if Mr. Caneta would explain the family business and maybe publish his tax statement as Mr. Cameron was forced to do, because otherwise we will very quickly lose credibility in this house, and I have my name on my letterbox. Mr. Caneta or his wife should do the same.
I'm afraid we have to leave it here, but we will continue talking for sure, because there's a lot to be said and a lot to be done still on this matter. Thanks both for being here, and thanks for watching.